Amazon's Lord of the Rings: The Rings of Power series is off to a great start, and in celebration of its 2-episode premiere, actor Morfydd Clark has shared the brutal training she had to go through for the role. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look into Clark's special training process and a lot more. So let's dive right in. First off, the actor had to overcome her fears. While talking to Empire, Clark revealed that to play Galadriel, she had to literally overcome her fears. The stunt team realized that Morfydd would flinch a bit too often, which isn't something her character should be doing. Galadriel in the TV show is a hardened warrior who's seen her time on the battlefield, and so you'd expect her to be in full control of her senses, even while facing danger head-on. We can totally see why Clark might not have been in the same mindset, and her training aimed to fix that. The 33-year-old actor went through some exposure therapy where she'd see huge men running up to her and screaming with swords. The main goal was to simply make it so Clark would just get used to the idea and no longer flinch on screen. Recounting the experience, she mentions how it was the only real way to get her to stop looking scared on camera, and while tough, it was needed to make sure that Galadriel didn't come off as a victim, when she's supposed to be a powerful warrior. It definitely takes a great amount of dedication to commit to a role like this, so we've got to give huge props to Morfydd. Next, she also had to hold her breath underwater. Amazon really pushes their actors to another level with some of their roles, and it looks like Clark is no different. Her experiences with exposure therapy wasn't the only thing she had to endure while shooting the new Lord of the Rings prequel. In fact, she states that she also had to learn how to hold her breath underwater. The actor states that she managed to get up to 3.5 minutes, which is no small feat. She describes the whole experience as very challenging. While other things tend to get easier the more you practice, holding your breath underwater really isn't one of them. Clark states that she was told the pain wouldn't go away, but rather she'd get used to it over time. Yikes. We're sure many of us would have called it quits when asked to work under such tough conditions, but Morfydd seemingly endured. She stated that she thought it was really cool because she got to spend a lot of time underwater, which she apparently likes. And it looks like the 33-year-old actor isn't alone in her underwater struggles. Vickers, who plays the character Halbrand on the show, said something similar. He added that they trained for a couple of months leading up to the shoot, and he always dreaded the weekly session of underwater breathing. He said the pain was excruciating and would go on for a whole hour. You just hold your breath underwater and then repeat the process over and over again. Halbrand is a human character who comes across Galadriel in the series, so we can see why these two actors may have needed to do this intense training, considering they'll likely share scenes on the series. Plus, Clark's been on a roller coaster since her audition. It seems that the Rings of Power star hasn't had one day of peace on set. Even going all the way back to her audition, she describes it as a very panicky experience. And much of this was because Clark didn't realize that she was being asked to audition for a new Lord of the Rings series. She'd arrived at the audition, and that's when she heard another actor mention that it was in fact for a prequel set in the world of J.R.R. Tolkien. Unsurprisingly, she started to panic when she realized just how big of a deal this audition really was. When talking with Empire, the actor describes rushing to the toilet while trying to pull herself together. In an attempt to calm down, Morfydd reminded herself that she'd been training for this for years, and that she knew what to do. Clark's been watching the Lord of the Rings movies since she was a kid, and so this was a role that should come naturally to her. Her impromptu pep talk seems to have worked, because her performance in the audition as Galadriel is described as amazing by critics. Even if she didn't initially know she was being cast for a role in the Rings of Power, it looks like things eventually turned out for the best. Moving on, did Clark's hard work pay off? Actors love dedicating time and effort to their craft, and when it all pays off with great reviews, everything just seems perfect. And that's exactly what seems to be the case for Amazon's new Lord of the Rings series. The initial reviews from the first 2 episodes of the Rings of Power have been largely positive. The series has been described as a promising adaptation of the original fantasy novels. The Guardian even called the prequel so astounding it makes House of the Dragon look amateur. This isn't a small claim by any means, just considering how well received the Game of Thrones prequel was as well. Critics also describe the show as having a sincerity to its writing that makes it feel like it's a true extension to the world created by J.R.R. Tolkien. And as fans of the novels, that's really all we can hope for, can't we? The series seems to be one of the most immersive fantasy shows we've gotten in recent times, and it definitely looks like it's going toe-to-toe toe with blockbuster movies. That said, audience reviews tend to differ quite a bit from critics, so we'll have to wait and see what the general fan following have to say about the show as more episodes start rolling in. Other news. Up next, Jeff Bezos' son asked him not to mess up Rings of Power. Amazon producing a Lord of the Rings series was a cause for alarm for many fans of Tolkien's original work, and it looks like the son of the billionaire owner of the company is among them. In a recent interview, Jeff Bezos explains how after learning that Amazon was working on a prequel to Lord of the Rings, his son came up to him and asked him not to mess the series up. As a huge fan of the original trilogy and the fantasy novels they're based on, Bezos' son definitely didn't want to see the legacy of Tolkien's amazing world get tarnished, and we're sure many other fans are right there with him. By the looks of it, the first 2 episodes have received great reviews, so it seems the stern warning the son gave his dad might have paid off, but we'll have to wait and see the rest of the season before jumping to conclusions. Moving ahead, House of the Dragon's premiere episode crosses over 20 million views. The premiere that broke records over at HBO as the most watched first episode of any series seems to not be slowing down anytime soon. Initially, HBO had reported that the episode had nearly garnered 10 million views, placing it at the top of the premieres for any of their TV shows. And now it seems the episode has more than doubled its views, sitting at over 20 million. The highly anticipated Game of Thrones prequel has scratched the same itch for a lot of fans that the original fantasy series did. It's not surprising to see the show boast such large numbers though. It offers a mix of the old and the new while retaining a lot of the style that people really loved. Plus, the whole political angle that House of Dragon offers is also a huge hit among the audience. That said, with Amazon's Rings of Power now airing too, we wonder if that'll end up affecting the numbers for the show a little bit. It'll be interesting to see which of these fantasy prequels will reign as king by the end of their respective seasons. Finally, Bezos appreciates Rings of Power writers for not listening to him. Usually you'd expect your boss to be happy you took their advice, but in this case, Jeff Bezos was glad his team decided to ignore his notes. The billionaire owner of Amazon stated that after reading the first draft for the Rings of Power, he had a couple notes for the writing team that he wanted addressed, and it looks like the team wasn't too keen on some of the changes and chose to ignore them. We're sure Bezos wasn't too pleased with being left to the side at first, but after seeing how the final product turned out, he quipped that he's thankful to his team for ignoring him at the right moments. Jeff also defended his team, stating that he saw something special in them, and picking them was one of his best decisions. That's a wrap for this video. Have you seen the 2-episode premiere of The Rings of Power yet? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.